Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back in AI era Islamic Abrahamic wisdom. Every civilization survives on order, but not every order is just. When security protects power, fear spreads. When security protects people, peace endures. In today's episode, based on the research and constitutional analysis of Mr. Zahir Ahmad Mir, we explore how Hazrat Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu said, designed one of history's most disciplined public order frameworks, a system that preserved peace without crushing liberty. This was not policing by terror, not surveillance by suspicion, but security bound by law, morality, and accountability. Episode 23 reveals how Umar, radiyallahu anhu, proved a timeless truth. The strongest states are not feared by their people, they are trusted by them. Let us enter a constitutional era where order served justice.
Here, from his book, The Foundation of Islamic Jurisprudence, to really understand the security framework developed by one of history's most incredible leaders, Umar ibn al-Khattab, may God be pleased with him. His approach to justice and public order wasn't just effective, it was, and you'll see this, absolutely visionary. Okay, so let's jump right in with a question that really every single society has had to wrestle with. How do you build a state that's safe, that's stable, that's orderly, but at the same time, make sure it stays free and just for the people who actually live there? It's this timeless balancing act, right? And if you get it wrong, well, the consequences can echo for generations. And what we see time and time again is that governments often get stuck between two really dangerous extremes. You lean too far in one direction, and bam, you've got an iron-fisted police state. Society gets choked by repression, by fear, and people are just too scared to speak up. But then, if you swing the pendulum all the way to the other side, you get chaos, a total power vacuum where vigilantism takes over, and frankly, nobody feels safe. The real genius of Omar's approach was in carving out a third path, a way to avoid both of these traps. So, what was this third path? Well, it all started with a fundamental shift in thinking, an idea that completely flipped the whole purpose of state power on its head. Instead of seeing security as just a tool for control, Umar introduced a concept that was, for its time, nothing short of revolutionary. Security is a public service. It's there to serve the people, not to be used as a weapon against them. This one sentence, right here, it captures the entire heart of his philosophy. Security exists to protect rights first and authority second. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. How radical that still is today. What it means is that the government's power, its own authority, isn't the number one priority. The people's rights are. Public order, safety, those aren't the end goals. They're just the tools you use to build a society where every single person can get a fair shake. Now, having a great principle is one thing, but how do you actually make it work? How do you build it into the nuts and bolts of a state? So let's take a look at the actual pillars that Umar put in place to build this incredible system of just security. See, this wasn't just about having guards on the street. It was a completely holistic, integrated system. Yeah, you had preventative patrols, sure. But look what else is on this list. Market regulation, a way to solve disputes quickly, strict rules on using force, and, this is key, constant judicial oversight. The core idea here was that security could never be separate from the law. It was always a part of it, and it was always accountable to it. Let's zoom in on one of these for a second. Hizbah. You can think of this as a department of public integrity, but specifically for the marketplace. The inspector, called the Muqtasib, would make sure prices were fair, weights and measures were honest, and fraud was stopped. So why is this a security issue? Because this framework understood a deep truth. Economic injustice creates social instability. A society where people are being cheated and taken advantage of is not a secure society. Economic fairness wasn't just some nice idea, it was a cornerstone of public safety. And what about when force times was needed? The rules were crystal clear. It had to be the absolute minimum required, it had to be totally justified, and it was always temporary. This was not about making a big show of power. Punishment was never some public spectacle designed to scare people. The goal was always to restore justice, not to perform dominance. And this brings us to what might be the most critical piece of this entire system: accountability. I mean, if your security forces are there to protect the rights of the people, then those same forces have to be held to the absolute highest standard. They have to answer for what they do. So how did the framework guarantee this? The answer was as simple as it was profound. Nobody was above the law, period. Every single action taken by a security officer could be reviewed by the courts. If a citizen said an officer abused their power, a full investigation was launched, and if they were found guilty, they were removed. This made sure that power was always serving justice. Now, think about this next one in the context of our modern digital world. Umar's framework actively rejected the idea of a surveillance state. There was no spying on private homes, no government system for monitoring what citizens were doing in their private lives. The government acted on actual evidence of wrongdoing, not just on suspicion or because they had the ability to watch everyone. The principle behind this was unwavering. Privacy was a right, not a privilege. This wasn't just a guideline. It was written right into the DNA of the state. It was a shield for the individual, protecting them from a government that could otherwise become a source of constant fear. It guaranteed both liberty and dignity. It's kind of amazing to realize that this whole sophisticated system was designed and put into practice almost 1,400 years ago. So what can we possibly learn from it today? Well, it turns out this ancient framework has some incredibly urgent and relevant lessons for our own struggles with policing, privacy, and government. These 5 lessons really speak to our world today. First, be very clear about what security is for. Is it to protect citizens' rights or the state's power? Second, make sure your police are never above the law. They have to be answerable to the courts. Third, treat privacy as a fundamental, non-negotiable right. Fourth, remember that a fair economy is a stable society. And finally, that last one is so important. If you have to use emergency powers, they can't be a blank check. There must be a clear end date. In this quote, it just brings it all home, doesn't it? Real, lasting security isn't built on fear. It's not found in a population that's afraid of its own police or its own government. True security is built on trust. Trust in a legal system that's fair, that's impartial, and that's just for everybody. That's the foundation of a society that is not only safe, but also truly free. So we're left with this powerful question to think about. If we really accept this principle, that the ultimate purpose of security is to serve justice, what fundamental changes does that demand from our institutions, our policies, and our leaders right here and right now? We really hope this exploration gave you some valuable food for thought. If you found it helpful, please subscribe to our channel, give this video a like, and share it with your friends so more people can join in on this important conversation. Thanks for watching.